Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the info session on the European Defence Fund. Unlike what the slide says, my name is not Francois Arbault. I'm not the director for defense industries in the European Commission. Big apologies from Mr. Arbault, who had to leave to Brussels today for important meetings regarding supporting European defense industry in the area of ammunition production. So you have to bear with us, but we are a very strong team. My name is Krzysztof Poslavski, and I have the pleasure to be part of the management team of DG Defense, Industry and Space of the European Commission. Basically, we are managing the European Defense Fund. I'll also introduce quickly our colleagues, because we came also here very well prepared with people who have not only the relevant Hellenic background, but who have served and protected this country for decades. Before we start into the presentations, just two major messages why this important, we believe, will be interesting and useful for you. First of all, those of you who were here in the morning heard the minister and the chair of the Industry Association. The winds in Europe have changed. After decades of underspending and underinvesting in defense, also in defense industry support, also to a big extent following the Russian invasion against Ukraine, now there is strong political momentum that defense is important, that we cannot have defense without having strong defense industry. And what we want to do today is to present to you one of the pillars, what Europe does. I believe the minister or the president of the association said it with very simple words. There will be billions of European funding to support European defense industry, including 8 billion from the European Defence Fund, which is our core business. This is what we're going to focus today. And the European Defence Fund is a relatively new program. It only started 2 years ago. And for the 2 years since its setup, we have already invested 3 billion euro in defense research and development. 3 billion euro. So every year we have a budget of around 1 billion for research and development. I know for those of you dealing with procurement, probably 1 billion per year is not an amazing amount, but we are talking about 1 billion per year only for research and development, which has made the European Commission from no investor in defense research and development, which was the case just a few years ago, into one of the top 3 investors in defense research and development, which we believe will be interesting for you. Now, before we start the presentations, I want to briefly introduce my colleagues, because for those of you, especially with the Greek background, we are of course in Athens, so many of you represent the Greek defense companies. We have a stand here. You're very welcome. We'll show you the location at the end of the presentation. You can also talk in Greek with them. I'm not Greek, so no one is perfect, but you're very welcome. And now, Antonios Konstantinos, please say a few words about you, and then we will start the presentation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Antonios Boumbas, actually still active Hellenic Navy officer. I have already 2 years been assigned in the Commission in the A2 unit concerning the programming and the SME support. Have experience of 40 years in the Hellenic Navy before, at the General Staffs in Athens. And I'm there to support in the programming of the new programs, of the staffing of the new programs, and of course all the actions of the Commission to support the SMEs mostly. Moreover, I am responsible for the national focal points in the member states. I actually organized this network from the early beginning of my assignment there. Και στα ελληνικά είμαι ο Αντώνης Μπούμπας, είμαι πλοίαρχος του πολεμικού ναυτικού ακόμη. Έχω 40 χρόνια προϋπηρεσίας στο πολεμικό ναυτικό. Έχω 2 χρόνια στην Κομισιόν. Και είναι για μένα σήμερα τιμή μου που από την πλευρά της Ευρωπαϊκής Επιτροπής θα παρουσιάσω μαζί με τους συναδέλφους μου το πρόγραμμα, το Ευρωπαϊκό Ταμείο Άμυνας και τι μπορεί να προσφέρει αυτό όχι μόνο στην ελληνική αλλά γενικότερα στην ευρωπαϊκή αμυντική βιομηχανία. Ευχαριστώ.
So, good morning from my side. I'm the Brigadier General and the former pilot of the Hellenic Air Force, Konstantinos Grapsas, and I'm also part of the group of the team of the DG DEFIS, Defense Industry and Space, of the part of industry, and especially EDF implementation. I'm a project officer there, and I supervise, evaluate, and do all the stuff needed for the projects that will be and the projects are running already. So I'm very happy. This is my second time because I was in my previous situation as an active member of the Air Force. I had the honor to participate in this exhibition, and this year, with great pleasure, I found that it had improved visibly, and I believe that the next will be even better. So, for the Greek audience, είμαι ο ταξίαρχος εν αποστρατεία επτάμενος πολεμικής αεροπορίας, Κωνσταντίνος Γράψας. Είμαι μέλος της DG DEFIS πρόσφατα και είμαι project officer στο κομμάτι του implementation του EDF. Οπότε ασχολούμαι με τα projects τα οποία τρέχουν αυτή τη στιγμή και κάποια project από το EDIDP και από το EDF, καθώς επίσης και με αυτά τα οποία είναι στη διαδικασία της αξιολόγησης, αλλά και αυτά τα οποία θα έρθουν. Είχα την τιμή να έλθω εδώ στην πρώτη DEFEA και να έχω την πρώτη εικόνα, οπότε έχω φέτος κάνω τη σύγκριση και βλέπω με μεγάλη μου ικανοποίηση ότι η έκθεση έγινε ακόμα καλύτερη και είμαι βέβαιος ότι το 2025 η καινούρια έκθεση θα είναι πολύ πολύ καλύτερη από ό,τι φέτος. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you, colleagues. Ευχαριστώ πολύ, which is the end of my bilingual part of the presentation. Now, colleagues, before we go into the details of this year's calls for proposals, can we please show the slides? Yes. Just a small historical overview, because very often you hear the cliché of people talking about historical times. This time it is true. We truly live in historical times, not only for defense, but also for defense industry. Just a few years ago, in 2015, which in historical terms is almost yesterday, we had for the first time a Commission President, President Juncker, the President of the European Commission, who announced during one of his State of the Union speeches, basically saying, of course there is a role for member states, of course there is a role for NATO, but we in the European Union, we also can bring member states together. We can help industry cooperate with each other. This was 2015, only 7 years ago. And since then, we have a revolution. We had the so-called precursor programs. Maybe some of you have heard about this, the so-called PADR, EDIDP, complicated European abbreviations. Basically, these were tests if we can do European collaborative defense research and development programs. And based on this, in 2021, so very recently, we launched for the first time ever a full European program focusing on supporting collaborative research and development in defense. I myself, I must say, I started working on European research and development programs 15 years ago now, and what we are doing now is revolutionary. Just 5-6 years ago, every time the word defense was mentioned, it was a taboo word. So it was a forbidden word. Member states, stakeholders, they were all saying, don't touch defense, this is maybe NATO, this is maybe a member state, this is not for the European Union. Now this has dramatically changed, of course, also thanks to the very unfortunate developments happening not so far from Europe. Now we have a full program, the European Defence Fund, that provides 8 billion euro for collaborative research and development. We have all the member states, head of states and governments agreeing last March, in fact, that we need to prioritize investment in defense, including in defense industry. And this is how we started with this program called the European Defence Fund, which is practically a European program for research and development in the area of defense. Now, very important to understand, because this is a European Union program, and colleagues will go further then into the different eligibility conditions to apply for funding. Basically, we are giving grants. So we are giving money to industry to prepare new solutions. In this way, we are a very atypical exhibitor at the stand. We are not here to sell products. We are not here to sell capabilities or hardware. We are here to give opportunities to business to apply for funding, for grants. This is not money that they need to give back. This is really grants given to the companies. Very important, it's a European program. It is about collaborative research. So we want different industries from different member states to participate. It is based on competitive funding, similar to the European program Horizon. I suppose many of you have heard Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020 before that. Before that, there was FP7 on which I started working. It's competitive cost, so industry creates consortium, they apply for funding, and the best win the proposals. And the second or the third one don't win. Very important, we encourage small and medium-sized enterprises, and also small and medium-sized enterprises that are not usually active in the defense sector. You know that in the past, innovation was very often coming from the defense area, trickling down to civilian world. Now we see the opposite paradox. We have a lot of civilian research and innovation projects that have huge impact on defense, and that slowly are trickling down in the defense sector. Not to mention all the examples around Russia's invasion in Ukraine, but you see what happens with drones, space communication, etc. So we want to attract new players, players who are just scared to enter the defense market, but players who have innovative ideas what to do. Of course, we want to help reduce the fragmentation. You know very well the defense market is a very fragmented market. So we have a lot of inefficiencies. We don't invest our money wisely. So the idea is if we defragment the European market, basically we'll be getting better products and our armed forces will be getting better capabilities at a more affordable price. We want to build partnerships between defense actors on one side and of course in the demand and the supply. We want to invest in platforms and capabilities that are useful for the armed forces, things that the national ministries of defense, acquisition agencies will at the end use and that will help our armed forces to keep us safe, with simple words. We want also to strengthen, of course, Europe's resilience and strategic autonomy. You have seen during the COVID crisis, you see now how many bottlenecks there are, now that we have a major conventional war happening with, take the most simple example that you see every day in normal media, the ammunition consumption in Ukraine. This is something unseen, probably not from the Second World War, even from the First World War. How to ramp up production, etc., etc. We will come to that. And overall, we have 8 billion for 7 years. We're supporting mainly in the form of grants. And very importantly, because this is a defense industry program, it is open to all entities that are based in the EU member states. So all 27, if you are from Greece or Latvia or France or Germany, etc., 27 member states, plus importantly Norway, for this program, Norway that has a very strong defense industry is practically an EU member state. But we also allow participation of third country controlled entities if they are based in the European Union or Norway, provided that the relevant member state gives certain security guarantees. Now these are really the basics to understand the logic of the program. How is it implemented? Very important to understand the demand is driven by the member states because the member states are the sole acquirers of the defense platforms. The European Commission is not going to buy the next generation European patrol corvette or the next generation of systems of fighter jet. This will go to the armed forces of the member states. So we work very closely with them to prioritize and to identify what topics need to be funded, when, this is also very important for the full financial acquisition cycle, and in what form. We also look for synergies about the different prioritization instruments. There are different prioritization elements at European level, at NATO level, if you want. My colleague will go further into that. We want to be focused. We have a significant amount, again, 1 billion per year for business available for defense industry, but we need to have concrete results, concrete targets, and at the end, very importantly, to have tangible results for the armed forces of our member states. We want also to ensure continuity, that we have funded certain projects, there are certain bilateral, multilateral projects, etc., where we want to make sure that these developments continue, and we want to refocus slowly the program towards final tangible results. So really things that come out thanks to the European defense funding. It could be a capability, it could be a platform, it could be something real that will help our soldiers protect our security. Inclusiveness, again, very important for us. All member states can participate as well as Norway. So if you're based in any European Union member state, you have the full access to the program. We want to attract people from organizations, legal entities from all countries, which is the reason why we're here in Athens today, for example. This year we selected a number of defense exhibitions around Europe, basically 3 big ones. Now we're in Athens. Next week, colleagues will go to Madrid, and then we'll be at Le Bourget in June. But clearly also Athens and Greece, and also, of course, the international partners here, you have strong potential to participate and to apply for funding from our program. Now, I give the floor to my colleague.
Thank you, Crisio. Concerning the prioritization, a few words. As you see on the slide, in the middle is the EDF has the power which can move the industry, but in order to combine the working programs, we consider, first of all, from the Commission side, the capability development plan of the member states, which actually is taking place in each member state in the MOD, and a compilation of it take place with the help of European Defence Agency. Then the coordinated annual review on defence, which is something we has initiated the last 6-7 years, also from the EDA, and we receive the results. Actually, every member state is making a review every year and see what there will be the next capabilities they need for their own armed forces. The permanent structural cooperation, of course, the PESCO, as you have heard, we're taking into account, and except this later on, you will listen from my colleagues what kind of benefits they're going to have some projects they're coming and they have PESCO origination. And then synergistic complementarity with other EU programs like Horizon and other EU initiatives, which slowly they start to be more, as my colleague said, fancy in the European Union level. Then we're also staffing the multinational perspective. That means that except the next year of the program, which we're going to publish, and we discuss it in the program committee with the member states, and the final decision belongs to the member states and the Commission to co-decide and publish it. We're preparing the multinational perspective the next 3-4 years in order to be a continuity in the program. And part of it is also releasable in internet and to the member states and the companies in order to have a view what they have to expect the next years from the EDF.
If you allow me just to highlight how important this is, because now we're going to present what are the current open calls for proposals, so basically what kind of proposals we're funding this year and where you can apply. But of course, as industry, those of you who represent industry players, you would like to know also what we're going to fund in the next years. Now, what we do now for legal reasons, like in every administration, we have an annual budgetary life cycle, which is why we publish calls once per year. So you have the visibility of what is open now. But in order to give you the visibility of what will follow, it's not a legal obligation, but this is more or less strategic orientation for you to know in the area of sensors, this is what's going to be discussed. In the area of air combat, in the area of naval, in the area of space digital, we have another document. You can just Google it, or you can come to our stand and we'll show it to you, the so-called multi-annual perspective that my colleague mentioned, that gives you also a bit of the horizon of expected areas to be funded.
And now you can see the life cycle of the annual work programs and calls and proposals. And you can see that, for example, in year N-1, the work program is staffing. And when it's ready, we publish it, the calls of proposals. We have a certain period of time for the consortiums to submit the proposals. Then we have the evaluation of the projects. And then after the evaluation, we have the signing of the grant agreements. All this period, it is about 2 years. From the publication, from the publication of the work program until the signing of the grant agreement and, let's say, the first grant to be given to the consortiums. So that takes place from, for example, for the EDF 21, we started this discussion 2020 before, and then the first funding provided to the companies on 2022. So it took about 2 years as a period. So that's from my side, Chrisio. So yes, we have the lists.
Okay. Konstantinos, let's
Okay.
You can go to the categories if you want.
Can you show the previous slide, please? It doesn't seem to work from here.
Yeah.
The back button doesn't work. We can only go in future.
Okay, thank you. In this slide, you can see the different categories of action. Every working program, we have decided by the Commission and the Member States to have these categories of action. We can cover all the possible areas of the defense industry interests, but also from the Member States' interests. So we have seen medical response, CBRN, human factors, the first category, information superiority, sensors, cyber, space, digital transformation, energy resilience and environmental transition, materials and components, air combat, air and missile defense, ground combat, force protection and mobility, naval combat, where we have also the example of the corvette, which also Greece is participating, also other member states, underwater warfare, simulation and training. Of course, a lot of attention the program is giving to disruptive technologies, and later on my colleague will explain you a little bit how is the concept, how we think the concept of innovative defense technologies supporting SMEs. That's from my side. Costa, over to you.
Okay. You have, let's say, the general idea of what's the main domains that the EDF is funding. So we are going, as you can see, it covers nearly everything in defense. For 2023, this is the table with all the funding of each category. So you can see, for example, I will not go one by one. There are a lot of information, first of all, in our stand in C18, and also you can find online more information. But for an example, the air combat, for instance, for smart technologies, for next generation fighter system and self-protection systems, there are 30 million euros and 33 million euros that are funded. And how it works. So we have those two calls for smart technologies and self-protection systems. And after the calls are out, you, the consortia, will go there and see what is interested, what you are interested. So you will prepare the proposals and submit to the system. Then all these proposals will be collected by DG DEFIS, the Commission, and will start the evaluation process. For the evaluation process, we have some criteria. To add some more information and substance to our discussion, in the funding and tender portal, there is a web page, and you can see, you can find all the information in our stand. There is the main point of information that all the consortia can have from there. And from there, you can find the call fiche for each call, for each separate call, and you can download it to your system and get all the information that are needed for the specific call, and also about the criteria, admissibility criteria, eligibility criteria, and the forms that you have to submit in order to have a successful submission. It is very important to keep everything that is needed, because there is if something is problematic, it will be disqualified in the early beginning. So it will be a pity. I will focus now on this slide on some specific eligibility criteria and condition. So the consortia have to have at least 3 eligibility entities. with an exception on disruptive technologies that can be from two. The recipients have to be, and main subcontractors and all the participants in the consortia have to have assets in the European soil and not outside. However, there are some details, but you can find it in the portal. The recipients and main subcontractors not subject to the control. This is very important. The ownership control, it's very important for the EDF and also for the Commission, because we don't want the Commission, they don't want to give money for projects that will get benefit from the European people's money, get benefit countries or entities outside Europe. Because the main idea of the EDF is to give the European people's money to European industries. Then no restriction of no control of third entity or on results. Also, this is very important because the IPRs, it's a great deal for all companies, and the protection of the IPRs is on our main interest for the European Commission and also for the consortia and the companies. Of course, all projects have to comply with the international law and the ethics laws that are applied. That's why in the criteria it is written there, and we are very strict on this, the ethical part. So if there are, let's say, experiments on animals, on the collection of data, and artificial intelligence, then will be a separate evaluation process that will check and assess all these aspects, the ethical aspect. Specifically for the development action, because as my colleague said, we have the research and we have the development. For the development, we need more. So the co-financing, when it is needed, I will explain that and you will understand more with the next slide, because for the research projects, we fund 100%. But for the development, it's not in all cases. I will explain in a few minutes. We don't fund 100%. So the rest of the money have to be given by the member states, the industry. We don't care. But we have to have guarantees that there is a co-funding in this project. Otherwise, it won't be eligible, and it's not going to fly. And we don't want that. Also, harmonized defense capability requirement, jointly agreed, but at least 2 member states, and also intention to procure and common technical specification for system prototyping and activities. So these are, those 2 criteria are very important to have the guarantees from the member states that they will procure the final project if this is the case of the specific project. And now this is the explanation that I was talking about before. So you can see here in research actions, there is 100% funding from the European Commission. So everything is covered. However, in the development action, it's not always 100%, but as you can see there in those categories, it depends on the activity type. In some cases, we have 65 integration knowledge studies, 90%, design 65, prototyping 20, testing 45, qualification 70, certification 70, increasing efficiency 65. However, there are some bonuses. And this is in the framework of helping the smaller companies, SMEs and mid-caps, to be in the framework of the European defense industry, and to help them to cooperate with bigger industries and to be members, active members, not just puppets, but active members, and to support the consortia and the projects that are proposed, we give those bonuses that can help the funding and raise it up to 100%, 55, 80, it depends on the activity type. And these are the bonuses. So we have a PESCO bonus in case that the project is under the framework of the PESCO initiatives. We have the mid-cap bonus. So it's if in the consortium, in a consortium, there is a mid-cap, more than one, of course, are welcome, then you get 10% for the activity. And, of course, the SME bonus, which is much more encouraged. As many SMEs as there, then it's more beneficial for the consortium, the project, and, of course, for the funding. So I pass the floor to my colleague.
Thank you. And the last section of our presentation is, I think, most relevant for SMEs and startups. As part of our goal to attract companies that are not also usual defense players and to attract smaller players, we have launched a so-called European Defense Innovation Scheme. Basically, these are different concrete actions to support SMEs and startups to participate and to tap into the full potential, not of the usual primes, the usual big players that you see around, but also the smaller ones who have all the potential, who have the innovative ideas to participate. We have many opportunities. On the next slide, you will see concretely what it means to improve their chance. We plan to dedicate around 1/5, so around 20% of the whole EDF budget. For example, this year it was 224 million euro, which are part of these actions, just to give you the scale. And we aim to reach hundreds of SMEs. Many of them are already participating. And now, what does it mean in practice? And I'll counterintuitively, I'll start with the last bullet. We have dedicated calls for proposals only focused on small and medium-sized enterprises. We have non-thematic calls, so basically this is open calls for ideas that are related to defense research and innovation. So we don't predefine, give us a solution for something. We say we're open to solutions. This has a budget of more than 70 million. And disruptive technologies. We also provide, importantly for SMEs, if they apply successfully and they become partners in winning consortium, we also provide them business coaching for free, funded by the European Union fund, by the EDF. We're looking at collecting the good ideas of innovation companies, so we'll be organizing hackathons, technological challenges. We're testing now new tools, how it will work in practice. We'll see developing calls with financial support to third parties, the so-called cascade funding in the category of action materials and components. Very importantly, and this Antonius highlighted, we're trying to make the link between civilian research and defense research, which, as you know, is not very easy because sometimes these are people working in the same areas but completely disconnected. So for the first time ever, we're trying to do the so-called spinning calls in the areas of cyber materials and components and energy resilience and environment, basically supporting further the results of previous projects funded by civilian research and development. And we want to develop an equity funding for SMEs and mid-caps through an EIF equity facility. This is something really in progress. Now, before we finish the presentation, something we wanted to share with you, because this is really a development from the last days, even not hours. Those of you who are based in Greece, you have probably seen that our Commissioner Thierry Breton, the European Commissioner responsible also for defense industry, he's doing a so-called ammunition tour. So he visited all the member states that are main producers of ammunitions, basically, artillery ammunitions. He was here in Athens just, when was it, a week ago?
A week ago.
Mm-hmm. He visited 2 production sites, and I think together with the Minister of Defense and together with the industry representatives. And basically, as a result of this tour, we have a new development since really 3 days ago. we're talking about support, including financial support, to massively increase the European Union production capacity. Maybe just to give you the background, you have heard a lot of this in the media. There's a lot of understandable media attention. Part of this, of course, relates to our support to Ukraine. Part of this relates to replenishing our stocks. As you know, massive buying of new ammunition has not happened in many countries since decades. We have 3 tracks at European Union level. One is to support the immediate transfer of ammunition to Ukraine, so existing national stocks. There is certain actions and there is certain reimbursement from the European Union. Track 2 is for the first time ever to do joint procurement of defense materials for the member states. Again, joint procurement at European level, this is something absolutely unthinkable for me just a few years ago. And then track 3, which is a proposal made by the European Commission, adopted last week. We adopted the so-called ASAP Act, which is a regulation with the nice abbreviation ASAP, just because there is this huge operational actual need. It's an act in support of ammunition production, basically supporting defense industry to ramp up the production. Until now, until the previous slide, we were talking about supporting research and development. Now, this is something different. This is really about supporting defense industry ammunition producers to ramp up production. There is 500 million of associated European funding going to that. There will be also co-funding from the member states, so we expect around 1 billion euro to go to defense, European defense industry producers to help them ramp up production. And in practice, this means different things. One is the financial support to industry to reinforce the production. You will not be surprised. In many countries, you have huge or big facilities that for many years have been working under capacity with, I don't know, 10% of their real capacity. So now they need to remachine, rebuild, etc., etc. We're also talking about rules to secure the timely availability of ammunition. It's not only the final product. The challenge is also the raw materials. If you need to build the shell casing, you need to have the relevant steel, etc., etc. Gunpowder, all these things that at the end become the 155 millimeter ammunition. And we'll also be doing a mapping exercise to see how it works. What are even the legal constraints that are delaying this process? Is there something in the labor law? Is there something in the building permits to open a new production line? Again, this is not about funding research and development, but this is something that really happened 3 days ago, a Commission proposal. Just yesterday, the European Parliament, so the people that we elected 4.5 years ago, because in Greece, I understand you will be electing your government next week, but next May, we're all going to elect the next European Parliament. So there was a huge majority, an unbelievable majority across practically all parties, except of course, the extreme left, extreme right, saying, yes, this is important for Europe. Yes, we want this act to be adopted as soon as possible. And they're using the so-called emergency procedure, which is something almost unheard in terms of European Union decision-making. Because you know probably, but I have to say it, Brussels does not make a legislation. We propose a legislation, we propose a program like the ASAP, but it is for the European Parliament and for the national governments, so the member states, to adopt it. So we hope to have it adopted in 2 months, which is a speed of light for decision making, and we are already working on implementing this program. We have some useful links, of course. The most important message, don't try to read them. We're here for you today and tomorrow. We're in the central hall 3. The number is C18. We're here to help you. Those of you who speak Greek better address my colleagues. I cannot help you so much in Greek, but I think I still have some competences. Very importantly for you to know, Greek or no Greek participants, we have established a network of national focal points in each EU member state plus Norway. So every country has established a contact point for your stakeholders, for your industry, be it Germany, be it Estonia, be it Cyprus, be it Romania, etc., etc. The contact points are available on internet. You just Google EDF national focal points. You see in which ministry, which person, what is the phone number, what is the email. They're your first natural source of information if you want to see what are the funding opportunities, what are the deadlines, if you have any technical questions. We have set up this network to help you. Three last messages, if you allow me. First of all, again, I repeat, we are here for you. If you are interested, if you have questions, there are no stupid questions. If you have never heard about the EDF, just come to us and we will tell you, does it fit, does it not fit? Secondly, we have an information day, a full day information day on the 28th of June. It will be hybrid. It's both online and in Brussels. We opened now the registration. You're very welcome. We're going to do it in 3 parts. One is, if you want a pedagogical session of how the EDF works, so what is it going to support, which actions, how does the work, the program, how does it work for the beneficiary, for the applicant, etc., etc. We'll have a matchmaking event. It will be 28 and 29. The matching event will be on the 2nd day. It is open for registration, so please just Google EDF Info Day 2023, you will find it. It's a good opportunity, really an excellent opportunity to learn if you have questions. And the third thing with which I can maybe finish is interesting maybe for many of you in your personal capacities. When we have to select the proposals, so which proposals get funding and which don't get funding, we're using independent external experts because we need narrow technical expertise, be it in the area of air defense, be it in the area of underwater warfare, etc., etc. So we are looking for experts who are interested to participate in the evaluation of proposals. Of course, the major thing is that they should not have a conflict of interest. So if your company is applying for funding, we cannot recruit you to be an expert. But if you have no conflict of interest and if you have specialized technical knowledge and expertise in anything that relates to the areas that we just explained to you, don't hesitate to apply. Everything is available online. We can give you the details at our stand, or you can just Google independent experts. Of course, it is also paid, but the most important part is that you learn a lot how the process works. And of course, strategically, the most important part is that you will be part of a process that will help get the next generation capabilities and platforms to the armed forces that will keep us all safe. Thank you very much for the attention. I hope it was interesting and useful. And Antonios, maybe you can say where in Greece the NFP is based.
Yes, I will say that, but allow me to add in your last sentence that in this EDF Info Day in Brussels is also a very good opportunity for the companies to participate and to matchmake, to find other partners in order to get in consortiums. So because we didn't say that before. Of course, because I'm responsible for the national focal points from the side of the Commission, I would like to inform you that in Greece, the Armaments Directorate is responsible for the EDF, and you can find in the portal the email of the national focal point. So to contact them in order you have questions. Whatever else, of course, you can contact for questions. Also, the emails you will find in the web page direct to the Commission, and our colleagues are responsible to provide official answers. They will respond to you in due time because, as you understand, we receive sometimes so many questions. We try then to compile a certain answer to cover a number of them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Master.
Thank you, Antonios. That's an important message. Now, for those of you from Greece, because I suppose many of you are based here, I can happily share that Greek industry is very successful in the first set of EDF calls. Greece is really performing very well, which shows the potential your country has. So basically, it's an open door for the industry. It is a historical moment. We have associated funding of billions of European funding. It's never enough, of course. We're here to help you, and if we can support your companies to develop your ideas, this is good for you, for your companies, for your countries, but also for the European Union. And now we have the opportunity for a few questions if there is something more general that you would like to ask us or to share with the audience. Thank you very much, colleagues, for your attention.
First of all, thank you very much for the very good presentation. My name is Kostas Pasoulas. I'm from the Intercom Defense company here in Greece. I have a question. You said earlier that each year you initiate some calls based on which then you receive proposals. Can you explain briefly what are the criteria or the process based on which you select these calls that you present each year? Thank you.
Yes, well, it's a very valid question to understand how funding priorities are defined. And the simple answer, because I cannot go through all the procedural steps, the simple answer is we do this together with the member states. Why do we do that? Because, for example, for Horizon, which I suppose, I mean, those of you who have heard about Horizon, maybe if you can raise your hands, but I see quite many hands. So in Horizon, because it is a civilian program, the logic is that the European Commission defines the funding priorities. At the end, of course, the member states, they have to say yes or no, but they're not involved in the definition of the funding priorities. Here, under DDF, we're talking about defense research and development, which I don't need to preach to you, of course, has a very different sensitivity. And the biggest difference, of course, is that the final client, final customers are, of course, the national ministries of defense and the armed forces, which is why we have a very inclusive, elaborative process to sit down together with the member states, together with the European Defense Agency, together with the European External Action Service, to define what to be funded, when to be funded, and with how much to be funded. Because, of course, we are part of a much bigger landscape of funding priorities and national decision-making, national funding, etc., etc. So there is no such thing as Brussels, faceless bureaucrats deciding what will be funded when. We sit down for every category of action, naval, air, materials components, etc. We sit down with experts appointed by the Ministry of Defense or Ministries of Economy in the different states, and we discuss what are the topics, what is the scope, what should be the TRL level, what should be the funding associated. So more or less, this is the process, which makes sense, to be honest. Thank you.
And if I may,
absolutely.
This is also the process for the calls, but you asked for after the calls.
No, I think those are
for the calls,
yeah.
The process that the member states are involved.
Yes.
Okay.
Colleagues, we still have time for one or two more questions or in general remarks. Please. Yeah.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. My name is Yannis Patsikakis, and I'm a shareholder in a technology company, actually interested in the areas that you just mentioned. Just very quick, two quick questions. Is there a quid pro quo for the funding in terms of the IP? Any strings attached to the IP developed by the company? And secondly, in terms of the amounts that are dispersed, can you give us a sense of if there's a cap or if there's a a number or an amount that, particularly for smaller companies, yes, that is typical?
For the projects, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. Can you cover the first question on the IP?
The IP is written during the process of the negotiation of the grant agreement preparation. There are some articles that cover this. The IPRs are property of the companies of which produces, and there are some discussions and there are specific written in the grant agreement text what is covered on the IPRs for the foreground information and the information that are produced during the project. So it is fully covered for the company that and the member state that is producing specific information material and during the process, that it is their own. It is not a property. And also the final product, it is not property of the European Commission.
But does the Commission have the ability to force the company to share the information with other parties that they may decide to?
No, that's the thing. Each company can protect its own information. They share it with. They have to share it with the European Commission, otherwise cannot go. You can understand this. And from our side, the European Commission has access to all the deliverables of a project, to all. However, the IPRs are protected We have established security procedures, and we guarantee the security of the information provided. So only the company that has the right to and the access to the information, and the European Commission has the access to this information. Nobody else. If you don't want to share with your partners, it's your responsibility to protect this. And European Commission will not share with other companies or partners or affiliated entities or subcontractors, you name it.
Yes, and maybe briefly on your second question about the range of the funding for the projects. On the one extreme, of course it depends on the project, you will not be surprised by that. On the one extreme, something like 150 million is a significant, this is the bigger part. For example, for the European Patrol Corvette, now the topic has a funding of, I believe, 150 million euro. But this is really the extreme case in terms of big budget. For a smaller project, for the SME projects, it can be a few million euro funding.
It depends on the category. It's research around 4 million per proposal, but no more than 4 million. And if it's for development, I think this year 6 million.
Yes, that's an average.
Thank you very much.
Maybe a final question from someone from the audience? Well, if this is not the case, thank you for your attention. You're very welcome to our stand and enjoy the fair.